Thanks for staying with us. In celebrating International Women's Day today, we have a woman who is a best-selling author, keynote speaker, public policy advisor, and transformational coach for visionary leaders. Through her work of coaching, consulting, and capacity building, deploys her extraordinary gift of unlocking potential in people, institutions, and nations. Welcome with us, Debola Kurumi.
DDK.
I'm excited to be here.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So you have many caps. Yeah, and it's International Women's Day. And I am one person who's a proponent of you can be this and you can be that. I'm done with being put in a box. Nobody should dare put me in a box. And I can see that you have, taken the lead of many boxes and you're wearing them very well. What's your message, first of all, for International Women's Day before we now dive into everything that you do?
I love it. Excited to be here. You're doing an amazing work and the conversations are just so stirring. For this year's International Women's Day, I'm leaning towards the general theme around investing in women and sort of accelerating progress. But at the heart of that investment, what I am sort of pushing for is for women to be custodians of their own empowerment and to participate actively in that process that truly makes them who they were born to be. And the reason it matters for a woman to own her journey to empowerment is because to transition, and I was still saying that this morning, from social stereotypes into purpose prototype, you have to own who you are. And you have to heal from identity distortions. And since no one should know you better than you know yourself, it also means that you're going to own the responsibility to become who you are capable of, that you are currently in potential form. So yes, invest in yourself and be a custodian of the journey to empowerment.
Amazing. Strong message. Own who you are.
Yes.
So in what ways have women shown, have women made the mistake of not owning who they are, and how have you helped them? Yeah.
So, gosh, gorgeous question. Love it already. There are many ways that we can disempower ourselves by transferring the sense of ownership and the sense of responsibility of being custodians of the journey to transformation to others. Some of the most profound ways that I've found that happening to women will be, number one, blame trading. You see, and it's sometimes called learned helplessness, where everyone else but you is responsible for where you are.
Sure.
You're angry at the family you came out of. You're angry at the country you belong to. You're angry at the color of your skin, the state of the economy. You're angry that your husband isn't supporting you enough. And it's everyone else but yourself. It's really disempowering. It's a one-man pity party if you're doing it with yourself alone. And sometimes quite a coalition of pity parties if you're in the wrong communities, where we're pointing the fingers at everyone else. It's when you learn to catwalk with a limp. You're living life through like you're stammering. People are stammering through life. They are upset about everything, but they're not stepping back to say, what can I do to change my outcomes? How can I get into the driver's seat of my life? And how can I create new possibilities? I see that happening with many women. The reason it's easy for us to do that is because we are wombed men. A woman is a wombed man. So she's a natural nurturer. And it means you have a greater capacity to emote than men, you see. So you're meant to guard that asset carefully, the asset of your emotions, or else it can derail you. Exactly. It can affect your creativity. You stop taking ownership. I've seen that. The second thing I've really seen is social stereotyping, comparison. And we're in an age where the media can really get you crippled into identity theft. You're setting before yourself the image of other people for so long that you're trying to be remade in their image. You have this perspective.
Like high five on that.
Yes. You're thinking that people have what you don't have, and you want so bad to be like them that you disempower yourself. Because to empower yourself, you have to look into your own toolkit. What's in my own toolkit? Where's my genius? What are my strengths? How can I unlock my own unique powers? So there's a miracle that sits in authenticity, because authenticity is the door opener to mastery. You can't master who you've not owned, you see. So no more comparisons. Women do that a lot. The media has made it easier. You are on everybody's timeline, minding other people's business.
More than your own.
More than your own. Can you face your lane, you see? And then the third thing is when you are puffed up on superficial talent without substantial investment, you know. So there are those who are not, there are those who don't practice learned helplessness. They don't feel like they are disempowered, but they are high on their own supply. I'm that, and you are actually not all that.
Oh, God.
No, you are not all that. Nobody is all that. And except you own the sense of responsibility to be a giver of truth to your own self, where you make honest estimations and appraisal of your journey. And it's a practice of intellectual humility to say, I'm bright, I've got gifts, but I haven't taken them to Harvard. And Harvard in this context is not a school, but a context of empowerment and, you know, just heights, mastery, or what I love to call transcendence. You know, like really just astonishing yourself to the next level. Women don't often do that. Yes.
I'm listening to you, and certain past conversations are just coming to mind where a girl child was born in unpopular circumstances that made her traumatized. And then she just limits herself that, you know, because of this trauma, not necessarily because she blames, but that was a reality. She experienced that. She experienced abandonment, lack of support from family, you know, limitations by family. And she thinks, let me just remain here.
Just let me be here.
Let me just, it's safer.
Yeah.
And also she doesn't do much. She doesn't try. So she is in the pity party where she has something to justify it. So she remains there.
Yes.
How do you help such a person? Because I'm struggling really to help such a person that, yes, but heaven did not fall, you know, maybe my approach, heaven did not fall, do something better. Your life is in your hand, that kind of talk. And, you know, how do you help such a person?
I love it. You know, what you just described as your approach is actually the basis of healing trauma. People think that healing trauma is a mushy process where you're just like, things have really been tough, I understand, and you cry with them. That's just maybe about 5 to 10% of what comes into that process of hijacking a person out of trauma-induced patterns into new possibilities in their lives. And a significant portion of the work, you know, is around radical candor. It's tough love, and it's sometimes a difficult process. A few things we have found to be really impactful in shifting people from trauma into new spaces of empowerment, especially women, is number one, to actually shape, to frame a legacy of suffering, a legacy of future suffering. Imagine that. To actually ask a person, if you continued on this tangent, who would you be in 10 years? What kind of children would you raise? Yeah, would you really love the person you'd become? So invite them into the envisioning of a legacy of suffering. If you persist in these patterns and you don't fight for your future, would you love who you will become in 10 years? And what sort of leverage would you be able to offer to your children if you would have? What kind of family would you build? What kind of contribution would you make in the world? And what would you be known for? So you start to inspire a willingness to break their own patterns. And then when that conversation begins, then you have to put tools in their hands, because there is no one who is in trauma or who has been through a difficult experience in life who is incapable of coming out of it. They might need a midwife, they might need resources, but every single person...
So which would you say comes first, the advice or the tool?
The advice, the conversation, the envisioning. Do you want to be here? I mean, someone came to me and said what is often said to me in the conversation. She was like, she's suicidal and she wants to kill herself. So I said, why are you having a conversation with me about that? You shouldn't have to travel a different city to come say to me you want to kill yourself. The sniper, you know, let me know. I started to mention a few approaches, strategic approaches.
To help her
to execute on the mission. You even wasted transport. You know, so she's then calm and like, Didike, why are you sounding that way? Because I say you don't want to kill yourself.
That's why you took
You need help. So let's talk about the kind of help you need. You know, let's take suicide out of the conversation. And this is not to downplay actual real mental health challenges that people like us are not professionally empowered to tackle. If I see a real suicidal pattern, I always make those referrals and connections to certified, you know, therapists, counselors, etc. But I say that envisioning should start first and invite a person to envision their future and to draw reference from where they are today to make conclusions about if I continued on this pattern or on this journey, who would I become in 5 years? Who would I become in 10 years? If we then want to speak to tools, I would love to highlight 3 that I've found to be, of the many, quite really remarkable in helping a woman shift into what we call a zone of possibilities in her life. The first is to go on a strength-based excavation where you are helping, and you know, everybody has that. So it's a journey that is actually easy, and there's so many tools that we use. Everybody's got strengths, everybody's got giftings, everyone. In fact, if we sat into that singular conversation as we explore how to invest in women, we will go far. Just the recognition that we might be different, but no one is handicapped. No one is empty-handed. No one is without, you know, giftings and values and value, even if they are underneath, you know, a lot of muddy experiences. So you go on a strength-based excavation. You know, there's the Cliftings assessments by Gallup, there's DIC profiling, Meyer-Briggs, the personal archetype, the life monogram tool, just many resources, you see. And if you're a person of faith, like we all are, when you're looking into the book of life, you're going to be finding answers as well about how God has raised each person and given them their own capacities. So many times, you just have to lead a woman who's been through difficulty to separate the event from her identity. The way trauma is fashioned is that you start to see yourself as deserving of what happened to you. That there's got to be something off with me, you know, that's why that happened. So you take them on that strength-based excavation. The moment a person starts to see that they're not empty-handed, they know what to trade with. We all have these tools of trade for a life of meaning. The second thing is you lead them on the path of investing in their genius. Expertise is so critical. I'm going to say something that I find really remarkable, Nima. Because of the work that I do as a consultant for multinationals and corporations, I started to actively explore over the course of the last maybe about 3-4 years what causes men to stand out the way they do in terms of their leadership, the way they show up, and the way they own opportunities, brutally execute on strategic priorities. And I started to say, I'm a woman. And I know what's bubbling on my inside in the way I want to change the world. And I know that I'm not an exception to the rule. There's nothing extraordinary about me. So the other women that are sitting in these rooms who are holding positions of authority or decision-making in corporates, how do we unlock the same energy? How do we unlock the same fire? And how do we level up the playing field, you know, for male counterparts and women in leadership? And it took me on a journey to like exploring female leadership competencies. But one of the things I found that really blew my mind, I know that we perceive women as being, there's a word for it, like geeks, you know, because you see communities are flooded with women, coaching communities, people are doing book reviews together. But I dare confront the assumption that we have that women are very prone to receive empowerment. I feel like women have an emotional association with the concept of empowerment as against a strategic approach to gain the competence they need.
Actually doing something.
Yes. A man will look at, and these are generalistic statements in terms of the broad statistics of what I've discovered. There are people who are exceptions, you see. But I've found that there are many male leaders who would observe where they want to be in 5 years. He would say, I want to make partner in 5 years. I want to be regional director for West Africa in 8 years. And who would start to say, who are my sponsors, possible sponsors? Who are the key stakeholders within this institution? Who can be my, who can influence outcomes positively for me? Who can mentor me? Who sits in that role now? Who can give me insider insight? What kind of certifications do I require? And they are pacing out a roadmap. I've seen this too many times because I'm coaching senior C-suite executives, and I'm seeing many more men telling me upfront, DDK, I'm not in a hurry. This is where I'm going. 2009, this is what's going to happen. What? And they're taking the certifications, they're saving, setting it aside, and saying, I'm going for that. We need more women who will take a more strategic, bullet eye approach.
So women, we do what?
Women will be in communities.
Okay.
They will pay, they will sign up annually for coaching.
Yes.
They will attend conferences.
Will not take this next.
But they will not
Plan
strategically say, because look, you can be at conferences, but you have to ask yourself, how is this really adding to me?
Yes.
You should be at conferences.
Women do more conferences. They
And we attend it and we go back to business.
Go to less conferences, and yet they are...
Yes, and when they go to the conference, very likely they're going to meet certain people, and they're going with cards, and they are selling their value as though it's the cure to cancer.
Yeah,
whereas they are intentional. Whereas a woman is often selling her value like it's a cure to headache. Like, well, I do
this.
Apology.
I can do
I can.
It's apology.
But
let's
yes,
get
go
So
for it.
I know you speak about, I know your project, the Future Forward Female, and I've said on the show that we're in the decade of the woman.
Yes.
Nkefe said it. I've heard you say it as well, and it's just so conscious because TVC's new CEO is a woman.
Yes.
The MD of TVC Entertainment is a woman. So we are seeing...
TVC News is a
Yes,
woman.
TVC News is also...
Lovely.
Because she's been there for a while, I didn't even get it. So, like, on our board right now, the top people are women.
Yes.
And it's...
Competent women.
Competent women.
Solid
It's
women.
interesting to see. But, you know, sometimes when we're talking about it, somebody is looking at it and saying, it's because they are, it's because it's because I don't even want to be CEO. Let me just be. So how do we help a woman, how do we help women, actually this is International Women's Day, to become more future forward? How can they start thinking, how can they start dreaming? How can they look at Nigeria and say, despite this environment, I can believe, I can achieve, I can plan and get there?
Ah, lovely. You guys ask the best questions. And everyone is gorgeous. A number of things are going to shift us into those possibilities. But what we have to begin with is a reckoning, a reflection, and an appreciation of the journey. You know, a lot of grounds have been covered.
Yes.
We may look at the traction in terms of numbers and say that there's still severe underrepresentation of women in leadership. There's still a lot of gender-based violence. We still don't have sufficient policies that empower a woman to balance out family with career. All of those things are still on the horizon, but we have to pause and be grateful, because in our gratitude, we would even be able to pull out some of the strategies that have worked that we can leverage going forward. So we're grateful for even your view, the work that you do, getting into the room again and again and again, and inspiring culture-shifting conversations. Those are big contributions. We're grateful for our mothers and our mentors. You just spoke about FFA. We've got matriarchs across industries, you know, spiritual leaders, people who just continue to inspire us to attain to heights, you see. And then we have even global policies that are putting the pressure on African governments to do better. All these things are happening, and we have to keep our eyes on them. But the first thing I would like to highlight that I believe is changing the game and will continue to do so in helping women aspire to march and rising into the possibilities of the future forward female in the decade. The first would be the power of models. I'm telling you, do you know that if you set before your eyes and you have access to a community of women who are breaking barriers and shifting the lead, you're normalizing possibilities in your life. Yeah. The thing is really remarkable. It's bigger than even the best books you could read, because you believe beyond a doubt. You can't unsee what you see. So we need more models. We need powerful stories told. And we don't want images of hashtag soft life. It's actually distressing the next generation more than it's empowering them. There is a campaign that sort of sells the narrative that success looks like vacations and wigs and fancy hairs. And when we even see women in the front line, I'm not sure that I really want to see these videos of coming out of luxurious SUVs, having the door opened for you. We are sort of shaping a narrative that keeps the focus on the perks of success. We can, my love.
Right? So that hug, hold it. Let's take a short break. When we come back, we continue this conversation. Stay with us.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.